Wednesday, May 2nd, 2012. Can I have the roll call, please?
Justin Cobb. Donald Sikowski.
Here.
Salem Derby.
Present.
Dan Hagan.
Present.
Joseph McCoy.
Here.
Chester Ogilevitz. Dan Risk.
Here.
Joy Winnie. Nathan Ziegler.
Present.
For a motion for the approval of minutes of April
So
18,
moved.
2012.
Second.
Motion and a second for the approval of the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Public speak time. If there is someone here from the public who would like to address the council for something other than we having a public hearing tonight, please come to the podium and state your name and address, please. I think I saw Mr. Ruff.
How you doing? I'm Patrick Bruff from the Greater Easthampton Chamber of Commerce, and I just wanted to let the council and the public know that there are a couple events going on this weekend that the Chamber is involved in that I thought would be a great time to tell you about it. First thing is Recycling Days, which is an event that the Chamber has been doing for about 2 years now, where we do electronic recycling, things like computers, PC monitors, TVs, those old TVs and things like that. We set up a thing down at Valley Recycling, which is just past the new bike bridge on Route 10, and there is a small charge to bring the donation, to bring the items there. The prices range from $2 to $10 to bring the items there. It's a really great fundraiser for us, and it also helps clean up the environment a little bit by getting rid of those things in your yard, or in your shed, I should say. The next thing is the Easthampton Community Day, the Cleanup Day, which the Chamber does alongside with the EDIC. This is an event that's been going on for several years now, and we go around and do the cleanups of the street. We start very early in the morning and go up and down Union, Cottage, Main, sweeping the streets, picking up litter. We also put out new mulch, clean up the mulch beds here and there, and we're looking for volunteers for that. We start at 8 a.m., rain or shine. And anyone from any age, anybody who can hold a rake or pick up some trash with us is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to address? I see the hand there. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Sandra Richards. I live at 22 Summit Avenue. I don't look for opportunities to speak in public, yet here I am. That just demonstrates how strongly I have reacted to all I have heard and read about the behavior of Donald Sikowski as both a member of the City Council and the Library Board. It wasn't just a well-documented racist comment he made at a City Council meeting in December, but also the allegations of continued harassment of the Emily Williston Library Director from 2000 to 2007, 7 years. According to the library director, Mr. Sikowski made insulting and disparaging remarks to her and was asked by her on several occasions to stop making them, but the harassment continued. This kind of racist and sexist behavior displays a profound lack of sensitivity toward others. Unfortunately, Mr. Sikowski seems to believe he did nothing wrong. What is clear to me and many residents of Easthampton is that Mr. Sikowski has exhibited a continued pattern of improper and insensitive behavior over the course of several years, behavior that is unbecoming to a city official of Easthampton. In a recent newspaper article, Mr. Sikowski stated that he was resigning from the library board because he didn't want to continue to bring negative publicity to the board. I think the negative publicity that the Easthampton City Council has been receiving is equal to or greater than that of the library board, yet no resignation has been offered. I'm not comfortable with a city councilor like Mr. Sikowski, and I'm not alone. He is an elected city official and should behave in a way that reflects positively on the residents of Easthampton. I am amazed that after all the negative press and calls for him to go, Mr. Sikowski is relentlessly determined to remain on the council. But maybe this is another one of those occasions where he just doesn't get the message. I respectfully request that Mr. Sikowski resign from the City Council and spare this city the expense of a recall election. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the public for some time?
Hi, good evening. I'm Peter Gunn. I live on Brewster Avenue. I'm also the chair of the Easthampton School Committee, and I'm here to share with you two things. The first, in something I think we can all rally around and agree, I've just come back from Washington, D.C. with a group of students. You may remember having met Taylor, Mike, Tom, Zach, Willow, Felicia, Tristan, Bailey, Brianna, and Olivia before when you issued your proclamation and commendation for their outstanding scholarship. I can tell you having spent 3 days with them in Washington, D.C., that they were extraordinary in their scholarship, outstanding in their citizenship. They were a fantastic representation of Easthampton. I think they did terrific work. They were a delight to travel with. I was, quote, a chaperone. I think they did a better job of keeping me from wandering off than I had to do for them. So I hope that you will hear more good news. Certainly Kelly Brown, their outstanding teacher, can share with you the details of the breakdown in terms of their performance. But overall, it was a tremendous event and something that we can all be proud of and excited about in the city of Easthampton. The other reason that I'm here this evening is that I want to thank the City Council in advance and urge you to consider the recommendation from the school committee for a ballot initiative, an override related to the school budget. And just to briefly comment that this override, I understand that this is something that is likely to be referred to a subcommittee, and this is not an occasion for a full presentation, but I did want to at least briefly highlight that what we are asking for here is something that we believe will fund our vision of a better educational experience as it is outlined in the strategic plan for the city from the superintendent's office. This vision will provide our students with a 21st century education, an education that's grounded in the skills and knowledge to prepare them for opportunities and success in the world, both here in Easthampton and beyond. It will allow us to maintain the excellent programs like the aforementioned one, as well as other services currently in place, and it would enable the district to move forward in achieving our goal of providing students with enhanced opportunities and experiences in the arts, music, world languages, global cultures, athletics, and enrichment programs both during the school day and after. So this is really much more than just a matter of closing a budget gap that occurs for 1 year. It is about funding a vision, providing resources, and from foreign languages to the arts and athletics. It's our hope that this will be something that you will receive positively and review thoroughly. I know that the school's strategic plan is available online, but I've taken the liberty of producing copies for each of you. I know I'd like to be a hard copy kind of person, so if I can leave these with you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter.
Mr. President,
Councilor Rist.
since he is a member of the school board, I think it's appropriate for me to ask a question. I believe Councilor Hagan will ask correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Hagan will ask the superintendent to provide us with actual figures for this override request
Absolutely.
and I'm wondering if I'm not speaking out of turn, I think it's the 10th of this month when we're going to debate the budget for the schools. It's important to this counselor, and I believe the other counselors, that we know the consequences of an override that fails. I certainly support the schools, and I'll support asking the voters, who are the bosses, about asking for more budget money. But I think consequences of its failure are very important to me, and I'd like you to pass that along to the superintendent when she provides us, or your committee provides us, with figures regarding this override, how much you're going to ask and what happens if it doesn't pass. That's
Right,
all I'm going to say for now. And I think Councilor Hagan will also mention to superintendent what he needs.
We're trying to keep this, obviously, this is not the discussion time.
Yeah, okay.
Councilor
Just
Hagan.
one quick, I did set aside, I'm sure we'll go on the 10th, and I did set aside one section we moved to another night, so there'll be some preliminary discussions that evening. I don't know if we'll possibly be able to get through them, but I think what Councilor Riz said about having hard figures at that meeting would really help. And I do have an appointment with the superintendent tomorrow, so maybe, I don't know if she has any figures, but.
Terrific. I do know, and I'll be very brief, I do know that at this point, we do know with the gap that is currently what stands as the likely outcome, we do know what those changes in the program for next year would entail. We are trying to be very specific and very precise in the programs that the override would support beyond those potential losses and exact dollar figures per program. Okay? All right. Thanks very much.
Hi, I'm Tanya Tiskus of 94 West Street. Yesterday, I heard a report on the radio about a man who'd committed fraud and was tried for it. The report was framed by the eternal question, why? Why would someone knowingly do wrong? And even deeper, why would others follow that individual down the same path, also knowing clearly the difference between right and wrong? I found it interesting in light of Counselor Psychowski's comments publicly and privately. Why would someone err and not admit it? The report suggested that it's in human nature to be helpful and to seek friendship. Perhaps Counselor Psychowski has always found a kind of bonding by making off-color quips, the way we might see Uncle Bob act at the family picnic, and as a family we just shrug it off. However, we must ask ourselves as a community whether a person in an elected position can act like our fictitious Uncle Bob. Shouldn't we require a person who is a representative of our community to rise above the manner of the backyard picnic and know what is right? When we err as adults, we hopefully are strong enough to admit it, make changes to our thinking so that we truly do learn from our mistakes. It may be hard to do what is right, to stand for injustice, even if it is a small matter. But that's what we ask our children to do, and that's what we ask from our representatives. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please keep the applause down. This is just a chance for a public speak. So, anyone else would like to address the council? There you go. I saw you first. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tamara Smith, and I am a mother of 5 in Easthampton. And I am here in support of the school council's recommendation for an override for the city council to consider. We have been speaking in many meetings with the school council about our concerns as parents and as taxpayers in the community, not only about the gap, but also about the enrichment of our children's education. Today, my son, James, who's a 2nd grader, I had an opportunity to volunteer in his classroom. He is part of the Pepin Center School, Pepin in particular, and the 2nd grade has 50 students in it. Today, we have multiple parents who volunteer throughout the week, but I was there for 4 hours doing volunteer work that was not done by the time that I left. So as a parent, I'm questioning the ability of all teachers to have a caseload of 25 students in their classes. And an incident occurred today where there was a concern of a lice outbreak in the class. And the chaos that ensued with keeping 25 students under control while they were all individually checked for lice, and the fact that this classroom does not have enough space to be able to even contain them away from each other are all concerns that a parent would have. I could go on about many different concerns. I know we'll have an opportunity to do so later, but I did want to at least come up here and voice my support for the school committee and thank the school committee for coming forth a request for an override, and I look forward to working with you in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Just to know, anyone who would like to talk about the override, the school budget, you'll certainly welcome to. This is your right, public speak time. There will be plenty of time when we have more specific numbers. So don't feel like this is your only chance if you do want to say something. But thank you for your comment. Anyone else would like to speak public speak time? There you go, ma'am.
My name is Nancy Sykes, and I sit over there on the school committee. I realize that you've just sort of requested that I not speak. But I don't often get a chance to sit out on this side. So I come tonight not just as a member of the school committee, but as a woman with 50 years of teaching experience in education. The gray hair is real. I obviously have a bias. My bias is, of course, that I clearly believe in our young people and our responsibility to equip them for the future, to equip them to be our future. So I know we will have many opportunities to speak to this override. But one of the questions that I proposed to you tonight, and I know you were probably not going to answer it for the public this evening, but I really do not know what the criteria is that you will be using to either deny or put forward this override. So I do hope that at some point we will be given that criteria, so we'll know what it is. I know you're going to go into subcommittee, but I don't know what the subcommittee's criteria is for this. So I would appreciate it at some point in the future discussion that we know what that is. And I, too, look forward to much more discussion about this.
Great. And like all our subcommittee meetings, the agendas we posted, so you're welcome to be a part of that discussion at the subcommittee level.
Absolutely, and I will hope to do that. But I think that it's important maybe for the public to know what the criteria is that we'll be discussing. Thank you.
Mike, did I see you?
I wanted to speak to the council's work that they've been doing on the ethics rule and address particularly Councilor Winnie. Unfortunately, she's not here tonight, but her comments at the last meeting regarding the freedom of speech and how it pertains to the ethics rule. And I thought it was a poignant comment as it relates to Councilor Psychowski's recent issues, in the sense that while I think we all want to preserve the freedom of speech, it is an inherent right and it is one worth protecting. I think it's very distinct and separate from representing the community as a city councilor, in that being a city councilor is really a privilege. It's not a right. It's a privilege that's granted to you through the voters of Easthampton, and it's one that requires the upholding of the community values. And I think Councilor Psychowski's actions, as they've been well stated previous to my coming up here, represents really a gross transgression of the community values. And I think in that instance that, while I recognize you do not have any power, and you shouldn't, I mean, the absolute control of the elected officials should reside with the citizens of Easthampton. That's where it's appropriate to hold. But I believe that his racist and sexist comments put a blemish on the community and really represent, in my opinion, a forfeiture of that privilege of being able to represent the community. And I believe he should step down. I know that you're going to be meeting later this evening on an executive session to discuss these issues, and I would hope that you'd be taking into consideration the image of Easthampton going forward and the kinds of values that we want to project, both to our own community members and to the communities around us. I often wonder if there's perhaps some solution to the situation that I'm not aware of. I often see things in very locked-in ways, and there may be some other alternative to resignation or recall. I haven't seen one, but I recognize that you're competent members who've been elected to represent us and give careful consideration to these kinds of issues. And so there may be a solution to this that I'm not aware of, but I did want to state that I believe there's support for a recall. I've been talking with my neighbors and my friends, and I think the values that I'm trying to represent here are shared by a wide number of the community. So I guess looking at the recall is a very costly solution, and one that I'd like to see avoided if at all possible, as Easthampton is in dire straits. I look to you to add as much guidance in the situation as you can, but know that the feelings of the community are strong on this, and I just wanted to express that and hope you take it into consideration. There was a request that I know some people have come tonight who maybe feel uncomfortable speaking in front of the public, and perhaps if I could just ask for a quick show of hands of people who've come to support this issue in some way, shape, or form who may not feel comfortable speaking. How many people here have come regarding this issue? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And anyone else would like to speak to the council concerning an issue?
My name is Melinda Cryle. I am a citizen and a voter and a parent in this town. And I know that you said you wanted to talk more about it when the budget and all the figures and you knew what the consequences were, but For me, the consequence is my daughter's education, and as it stands right now, I don't understand how there can be budget cuts in the school when there's 25 kids in the classroom, the teachers are overworked, there's not enough services. My daughter has special needs and has an IEP. The entire school year last year, it was not followed because the teacher, meeting after meeting, month after month, said to me, I'm just trying to control this number of kids. It's their first year at the school. It's too much for the teachers. I also was at the school volunteering today, and it was impossible to get the workload done for the teachers. Everything is spread so thin, and I don't know. This is my first meeting that I've ever been to, and I'm just starting to learn about this stuff. But I feel very strongly about it because my daughters and my son, who's not in school yet, their education and their future is affected. My daughter, her first year in kindergarten, it was also the teacher's first year teaching. There's all these new teachers all the time because people are getting fired and rehired, and there's no consistency. But she didn't have a para that year. It was her first year teaching, and she didn't know what to do. She was completely stressed, overworked, trying to figure out a new school. The second year, she was moved over to Pepin because there's all this rearranging all the time. She was separated from half the kids in her class. And I see her this year where she does have a para. The look on her face is unbelievable. She seems so much less stressed. As I was volunteering today, her para, I've seen her numerous times come down, do the photocopying for her. When she takes them to specials, when she takes them to all the different events, she has help. And I don't understand how that's going to affect my child if you cut the budget in the school. So I just wanted to support for the override. As a voter myself, I would definitely vote for it. And I want to see a life and a future for my children here in Easthampton. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to, gentlemen? Again, if it's school-related, try to keep it short.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jack Craven. I live at 56 Line Street. I've lived here in Easthampton since 1973. I'm retired. My wife and I have no children. However, I've never voted against anything for the school department. I even voted in favor of the new high school, and it's costing me $400 more a year in property taxes. I just ask you to keep that in your mind when you're contemplating this override. I know you don't have the exact figures yet, but if you would keep in mind, there are some older people in the city. I don't begrudge the children education, but when I see the police department and the fire department and the DPW understaffed, it might be better to throw some money that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to address the council? Going once? Twice? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on then. Communication from elected officials, boards, and committee. Also,
Mr. President.
I'm sorry, Council Rist.
I would like to move that this request from the school committee for override be moved to the finance committee for review.
Second. A motion and second to move the official request from the school department to discuss the override to finance committee. Additional discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same. Motion passes. I did want to make just another comment. Thank you to Clay Crow of Mantis Graphics, who has been working with the CPA committee and is going to donate his time for installation of the sign at one of our properties that was preserved. So thank you again. It's great when the private sector can work with the public sector and improve things for Easthampton. So thank you, Mantis Graphics, for that donation. We have no more correspondence. We do have Mayor Communications, Mayor Tosnick.
Just one item, and that's the city's budget. It's formally submitted to you for review, and I do want to clarify one thing. No one's budget was cut. There are increases. The most significant single increase in the budget is in debt, primarily driven by the high school project. And the other largest single increase over what was actually appropriated for 12 versus 13 was in the school department, some $260,000. None of the budget appropriations, or very few of the budget appropriations, actually met the requests. And so the school committee's reported statements that the budget was cut are really, the budget wasn't funded to the level that was requested. Beyond that, the budget does show a modest increase of about 3%. As I said, primarily those increases are in debt and in education. I'm going to present it at great length next week, beginning next week with the Finance Subcommittee, and I'd be happy to answer any particular questions you might have had. I know you just got the document in your mailboxes on Thursday, so I'm not sure you've had a chance to review it.
Councilor Seklas.
I just want to make one comment this evening. As long as I've been a counselor and Michael's been mayor, he's been more than generous in funding the schools. And in my opinion, it's been at cutting out of services out of other departments to fund the school. And I just want to say that he has done a marvelous job for the schools, and I know the schools, as long as I've been a taxpayer and growing up in this town, every time a budget comes up, the school department or the school committee is always crying for a little bit more money, so this is just a normal go-around to me. Thank you.
Any other questions for the mayor?
Do we need to move this to a committee? I'd like to make a motion, Mr. President, that the budget as presented by the mayor be moved to the Finance Committee for review.
Second. Okay, a motion, a second, to move the FY 2013 budget to finance. Any additional discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to, we have no public hearings. Moving on to Standing Committee, Rules and Government Relations, Councilor Rist.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Councilors, you believe you've received this evening from me an amended version of the Ethics Rule, number 19. I was completely in agreement with Councilor Winnie at the last meeting after reading the personal issues and private issues with regard to how we would adjudicate something that happens in private. I found even the language in the House rules to be difficult. I don't know how they would ever adjudicate that. So I made an attempt to remove that in this particular amendment. I don't ask that we vote on this evening. I am going to have another Rules Committee meeting on the 14th of this month in Room 1 at 6 p.m. to discuss this amendment and to bring back to the committee a final version. As I state in my cover letter, this amendment tries to clarify that a city councilor is always a city councilor regardless of the setting they're in, especially if it's in public. It doesn't have to be because they're in an official capacity, and that's what that new language attempts to clarify. Also, Councilor Winnie or some other councilors were questioning what other action the Rules Committee might draft as opposed to just a resolution of censure, and I wrote the other lesser action so the Rules Committee could have discretion should this ever come up for adjudication. So both of those items are highlighted in the new rule, and I ask all of you either to attend the meeting if you have concerns about the rest of the language, or forward suggestions to me through email or in writing, and we'll take them up. And I hope to present this at the next meeting for final vote. And that concludes.
Thank you very much. Finance, Councilor Hagan.
First item of business, as the mayor said and several of the councilors earlier, we'll be starting the review of the budget at 2 subcommittee meetings next week. The first will be May 9th at 6 p.m. Room 1. At that time, we'll take up Public Safety, General Government, and Human Services. And then on May 10th at 6 p.m., and right now it's scheduled for Room 1. We may move it to a larger venue if we need to. We'll be taking up the schools, employee benefits, and the CPA. Again, our primary focus of these subcommittee meetings are going to be for the budget, but we did move a section on the May 10th meeting to at least give some time for the override question to be presented, at least some initially, and hopefully, as Councilor Rist mentioned earlier, hopefully any information we can have before that, just to at least get the conversation going. But again, it'll be limited time because we do have to get through the city budget because it has to be approved before the fiscal year ends. There'll be another meeting the following week on May 15th, also at 6 p.m. in Room 1 for Public Works, Enterprise Fund, Cultural, Recreation, and Debt. With that out of the way, I'd like to request three public hearings at this time. I'd like for our next meeting. a public hearing for a $500 shortfall for the licensing board, $2,319.40 for possible shortfall in landfill budget, and $12,500 for real estate appraisal and testimony at a tax board hearing. And I just put that in the form of a motion that we hold a public hearing at our next full city council meeting on those 3 items.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for setting public hearings, May 16th, 6:15 PM for the $500 shortfall for the licensing board, 2019 for possible shortfall landfill budget, and the 12,000, essentially 12,000 for real estate appraisal testimony. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
That's it for finance right now. There is one new business item we'll take up.
Okay.
Counselor, Mr.
Counselor
President.
Riss?
Yeah, I just wanted to, because it was asked by a school committee member, and as a chair of the Rules Committee, I believe the council's role in granting an override question is simply to grant the override question. The defined need is what will be, for me, and I believe the whole council, what we'll need to see, a very detailed representation of why it is necessary, why there was a shortfall from request to what was granted, and also, as I stated earlier, what that consequence of a lack of funds would mean to the schools. And I believe with that, and I know that the superintendent and the school board will present that to us, that's all that's necessary for us to vote on. We need to know why, and we need to know what are the consequences. And having gone through a couple of overrides, it's extremely important that those consequences actually happen. Crying wolf does not work, and I just wanted to make that statement to all who are here to support schools, to the school board, and to the superintendent if she's hearing my voice. Consequences need to be real. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
We're going to more of that, I'm sure. Public safety, the chair of that, we have no report. Appointments, Councilor Ziegler is covering for Councilor Winnie tonight.
No report, but we'd like to set our next meeting here on May 16th at 5:45.
Okay, next meeting, we'll fill that in with business. Ordinance, Councilor Derby.
Thank you, Mr. President. The ordinance subcommittee met last Wednesday, discussed the changes to the bike ordinance, had a presentation, and also discussed a few of the other items on our agenda. We did take a vote on the over-quota liquor license, and as soon as I get the wording set on that, we'll be bringing that forward. We are going to meet again on the 9th at 6 p.m. in Conference Room B downstairs, so that's May 9th, 6 p.m., Conference Room B. And I think I need to get an extension on one of my items, so I would like to move that I have a 60-day extension on the request from Councilor Cobb to review the special permitting process.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for a 60-day extension for the request for review of the special permitting process. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Property, Councilor Psychowski.
No report this evening.
Okay, old business, new business, we do have that mayoral appointment.
Move that it be sent to committee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move the appointment of Jason E. Duda to the licensing board to appointments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Councilor Hagan, I believe we have a finance one as well.
Yeah, the new business, there's an interdepartmental transfer I'd like to do a first reading on, dated April 26th. The request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. Amount requested $2,850 to be transferred from Park Capital Appropriations in that amount, $2,850, and transferred to the Park Department Building Repair and Maintenance, again in the same sum, $2,850. The amount requested will be used for the following purpose: to fund and fund remediation and repairs to the park office bathroom. I believe this is looking at a letter here from John Mason, Director of Parks and Recreation. It's a mold problem in the basement. While I asked that be moved to finance, I also, in the form of a motion, would like to ask for a public hearing on that matter for our next council meeting so that we can clear the agenda for, hopefully get that taken care of and clear the agenda for our June meeting for the full city council budget.
We'll just do that. So if we have the first motion to move that to finance, so is there a second on that?
Second.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. And then we have the second motion to set a public hearing for May 16th, 6:15 PM. We have a second on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, motion passes. So a public setting, the hearing is set as well. We did receive a couple of requests from Councilor Psychowski, which the council is in favor. We can move these committees. I'm not sure they all are something that is in the
I have a
purview.
suggestion.
Councilors?
I have a suggestion which committees they should go to, if that's all right.
Okay, but, obviously, a counselor can submit something to have it evaluated. Again, the committee will have to decide if it's within the council's purview or not. The first one is to exempt all property owners over 62 from any future overrides and deck exclusions inclusive of their domicile on land. This is due to hard economic times. I guess we could just leave it at that for the moment.
I would request that that go to finance. I believe that's correct.
Okay, we have a motion to move that request from Councilor Psychowski to finance. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes. We have a request to rescind the stretch code and the over 55 housing with the bonus.
I think that should go to ordinance.
You mean that over housing was the best new growth option the city had. We have a request to move, motion to move that to ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
I think the last one should go to rules because it's a resolution. We have no authority over the Board of Public Works.
Okay, so the last request was to propose the City Council as a group ask the Board of Public Works to implement a discount on sewer charges during the summer months. We have a motion to move that to
send it to
rules. Is there a second on that? Second from, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay, that takes care of our regular business. We do, as you said, has been announced, we talked about a executive session. My conversations with our city solicitor on that, and I believe that we have the right to do that under the rules, and he ultimately his opinion was that it is Councilor Psychowski's decision to go into, if he would like to go into executive session to discuss these issues. That's his legal right. I spoke to Councilor Psychowski before. He wanted to exercise that. Is that still the case, Councilor Psychowski?
Certainly.
Okay, so we will be going to executive session. I'll obtain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved that we move to executive session.
Okay, a motion, a second to move to executive session. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
We have to
Abstained?
read the reasons.
Have to take a roll call for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to state the reasons.
Oh, yeah, I have to. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It's right here. Okay. Want me to read it?
Somebody needs to make it.
Okay.
Second it, roll call.
In the matter of Donald Psychowski, it is moved by
Dan
Councilor Rist and duly seconded by Councilor Ziegler that on this day, May 2nd, the government body will hold an executive session. The following roll call was taken.
Joseph McCoy?
Yes.
Dan Rist?
Yes.
Justin Joyce. Salem Derby?
Yes.
Chester Ogilevitz?
Yes.
Donald Psychowski?
Yes.
Dan Hagan?
Yes.
Nathan Ziegler?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So a quorum being present and a majority having voted to go into executive session, the Council Vice President states that the meeting convened in an open session and the notice and posting of the meeting was given. After the executive session, we will reconvene. And the purpose of this executive session is to discuss reputation, character, or physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaint or charges against a public office employee, staff member, or individual. Okay.
So we'll be back.
So we will be reconvene. Right behind, we'll just go right behind.
Right in the conference room right here.
It's the same one.
Oh, it goes well.
Gotta open the meeting. Wait till everybody gets here. Sorry, am I sitting at Nathan's chair? That's my.
I want to entertain a motion to reconvene.
Move that we reconvene.
Second.
Okay, a motion is second to reconvene. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same. Motion is, meeting is back open. So we went into executive session, and there is a statement the council would like to release that was signed by councilors. City clerk is going downstairs to make some copies if anyone like press would like a copy of it, but I will read it in the meantime. The well-publicized events of the last few months involving Councilor Donald Sykowski have unfortunately created a distraction from many of the great plans and accomplishments that are ongoing in the city of Easthampton. The council agrees that city's voters deserve to hear comment from their elected officials regarding these recent actions and allegations. We expect the release of this statement will serve that purpose and will allow the City Council to refocus its energies on improving the City of Easthampton and its commitment to the citizens to whom it serves. We reaffirm the City Council continues to abide by the anti-discrimination resolution unanimously adopted in January 2012, and we will continue to hold our elected officials to high ethical standards proposed in the ethics provision in our City Council rules, which are under work. While some of Councilor Sykowski's actions have been documented, the most recent allegations of sexual harassment while serving on the board of Williston Library has not been proven in a court of law. As such, the council will not have an opinion on this allegation. We are neither judge nor jury, do not feel we have the authority or expertise to make a legal judgment in this case. The council has previously stated that our actions are limited to those allowed by the City of Easthampton Homeroom Charter. There is no, nor do we feel there should be a provision for the council to remove an elected official. The voters alone have the right to recall an elected official, and that is through the recall process. The council believes that any effort should be initiated by the voters and be neither driven nor promoted by the council. The controversy surrounding Councilor Sykowski's actions, however, has had a negative impact on the reputation of the City of Easthampton and that of the City Council. In light of the documented racial comment made in December 2011, and if the allegations of sexual harassment at the Williston Library are proven true, the undersigned councilors believe Councilor Donald Sykowski should consider resignation in the best interest of the City Council and the City of Easthampton. Those present that signed it would be Joseph McCoy, Daniel Risk, Daniel Hagan, Salem Derby, and Nathan Ziegler. Councilor Cobb and Winnie are away, and they will have opportunity to sign it when they come back. It's not something that they missed the vote, but they obviously can sign this when they return from their respective absences. So for anyone who would like it, the city clerk will have, they can take a copy of this with them. But unless there's any more discussion, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Motion passes.
Move to reconvene.
You're looking younger every day.
Salem second.